So with AR and my finances, it was me really not trusting my team members and treating them, instead of treating them like my family and people that I can trust and rely on, trust but verify, I was treating them like I still saw them as a number. I still treated them as a number subconsciously. And for me, I let go. I lost some really great team members that got me where I was at because I saw money instead.
Welcome to the Everyday Practices Podcast. I'm Reagan Robertson, and my co-host, Dr. Chad Johnson, and I are on a mission to share the stories of everyday dentists who generate extraordinary results using practical, proven methods you can take right into your own dental practice. If you're ready to elevate patient care and produce results that are anything but ordinary, buckle up and listen in.
Hey everybody, this is Chad Johnson, and I'm doing a solo gig today without Reagan. The good news is I've got a special guest that I've known for a few years, Nguyen. Danny is from Texas, and Danny, tell us what town it is. I forget the town name. It's near Dallas-Fort Worth, right?
Yeah, so it's near south of Dallas-Fort Worth. It's called Midlothian, Texas.
Midlothian, yes.
You ever seen Chris Kyle's American Sniper? That's where he's from. So we have a highway called Chris Kyle there.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Well, I appreciate you coming on today. You kind of have an interesting story that other people, I think it'll resonate with them. Why don't you give us some background as far as you getting your office and stuff like that?
Yeah. So I left dental school, and I went into dental school with, so at that time, 10-year-old. I had 2 kids at the time, 2 kids.
Oh, okay.
A couple of years prior to. So I came out of the school and I was like, my heart really is telling me that I want to be a practice owner. That's the lifestyle I want. That's the direction I want to go. So I looked around for a dental practice even while I was in dental school, learned a lot about practice ownership. And then I jumped into practice ownership probably about 6 months out of school, 5 or 6 months out of school. And that's where I started. It was just a small, 4-op practice. It was doing general dentistry, bread and butter. That was about 3 years ago. And my I think it was a 2nd year anniversary was literally the day that Texas closed down because of COVID. So it was a great way to revisit. No, it was my first year. Yeah, it was my first year. The anniversary of my first year. And it was like, okay, everyone closed down. It's COVID. And I was just crapping my pants and so stressed out about everything. But it was
as we all were.
Yes. And so that was back in 2020, 2021 or something.
So 2 problems that you wanted to showcase, or that we want to kind of showcase in your story. The first one, we'll get to the second one, but the first one, why don't you tell us about micromanagement and what led up to that word being a key word in your discovery of your leadership skills in the last year or 2?
Yeah. So at a point, micromanagement probably worked for where I was at the time.
Sure.
Came out of school, guns a-blazing. I know all this about practice ownership and the way it should be, the way it should look like, the most efficient way. So I had all these ideas in my head, and I would implement it with my team, and it worked. We grew quickly, and it worked. But there was only so much of that my team could handle before I started noticing okay, team members are getting frustrated and burned out because I was ending up managing all these little things. It would annoy me when the burrs were off, or it would annoy me if their checklist wasn't finished, or, all these things were micromanaged for the most part, but it's not like I did it absolutely. My team still did a lot.
Listen, you're in good company. When dentists hear this will resonate with them because they're like, what, is that wrong?
Yeah. And honestly, it's I said I trusted them. But did I really trust them? Because to me, at the time, I was like, yeah, of course I trust them, but this is just my standards. These are just where I set my bar at. And it's like, and I'm allowing them to meet it. Like really, that was me mentally. And I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. But as things progress, the micromanaging, I didn't consider it micromanaging. That's the truth of it. I did
That
not.
was your standard. I
That
get
was
it.
my standard. And it was just like, hey, let's just work on this. Let's do this. And you're missing
You were
out.
living by the trust but verify.
Yes, trust
Yeah.
but verify.
Yeah.
But it all came from me.
Sure.
All,
It sounds so virtuous, doesn't it?
yes, I know. It all came from me. Like I created all these standards. I created these protocols. Now I just need you guys to do it and perform it. There's a whole, I will create it and you guys will just go and just trust the process. It'll work out.
So the repercussions too, how did that play into your AR? And, I also, you were kind of explaining about insurance not getting filed correctly. Tell us what you were finding out about that.
Yeah. So with AR and my finances, it was me really not trusting my team members and treating them, instead of treating them like my family and people that I can trust and rely on, trust but verify, I was treating them like I still saw them as a number. I still treated them as a number subconsciously. And for me, I let go. I lost some really great team members that got me where I was at because I saw money instead. I saw them as a dollar. I saw them as, you're not doing what I need you to do based off of your dollar amount. And it was just out of my scarcity mindset.
And this wouldn't be a problem if you didn't have bills to pay, right? I mean, what I'm saying is, I get it. If we had all of our bills paid and it was just like, oh, we had a bad month, well, I sure appreciate you guys for trying. That's neat and all, but there is a lot of stress that we feel as dentists with getting the bills paid and getting the business mortgage paid, and then you've got home stuff, and you've got there's a lot of pressure. So I get that. So tell me, you kind of alluded to it, but Jeff Buski runs with Dr. Bruce Baer, and he's running that Leadership on Fire program. And I know that I got you plugged in with my marketing guy, Dean. Right. And just in case Sebastian ever hears this, I'm glad that I put you over the board. He's still he's still crying over the knife that I stabbed in his back, he says, for giving you a donation and not him. That was funny. just to spite him, maybe. I don't know. But so tell me about that leadership program.
Sure. With that leadership program, it was, like I said, I was doing all these things. I was learning all these things and I was implementing. And I came back from CE and I was like, what's the point of all this? Like, oh, you can do this, you do this, and you can hit this number and this profitability, which is all great. We need that in order to run the business. But for me, at the end of the day, I was like, but what's the point? Like my family will never starve.
Yeah.
They will never starve. They will always be housed. I've worked with 2 kids, went to college, first one, go to dental school, got a practice. I did all these things that I thought I needed to do in order to be successful, to be fulfilled, and to provide for my family. But it wasn't what I found at the end of the road. What I found at the end of the road, where I was at, was I just felt more frustrated and I felt more confused and less fulfilled than I did when I was starting that journey.
Yeah.
Because
do you even think it was burnout or like early burnout?
I don't, it could be early burnout, but I think it was the loss of purpose.
Sure.
And yeah, I think you could say, hey, it was a loss of, it could be, some burnout with it, but I didn't feel, say, stressed in the office as much as I was like, what, I would say, yes, it was some burnout with all the decisions, with all the...
A different kind.
Thing. Yeah, it was different. But I was getting my significance from being a practice owner and being a doctor. And it worked, but it also didn't work when it bled onto my family, where I felt like I wasn't able to be there and be present for my family. And I was like, well, I thought I'm doing all these things, and this is where the results I'm getting. You guys will never starve and X, Y, and Z. But my family was not fulfilled. I wasn't fulfilled in my family.
So this is also interesting. Sometimes in this vein, I think of if you had a sports car and someone said, you could take that from 600 horsepower to 1,000 horsepower if you did this and that. And then you go, okay, well, no, that's cool. That makes sense. So let's make the changes on the vehicle. And then it's like, okay, now I can use all 1,000 horsepower. And someone says, well, what you need is better tires. Then you switch out better tires. And then it's like, well, you know what you need to help with aerodynamics is this and that. And so
it never ends.
Right. And so it never ends. But then the question just becomes, wait a second, but why? When can I enjoy this vehicle? I know that I can punch it the whole time, but like, can I maybe take it out on a country drive occasionally and just enjoy it?
Yes. Or where am I going to go?
Why? What's the purpose? Yeah. Right. Yeah. Just to rev the engine and blow it up. I mean, like that's neat and all, but like for what final goal?
Right.
So tell me, I mean, did you recognize when you reached out for Productive Dentist Academy to help with coaching, or when you went to the workshops where I met you, did you recognize at that moment yet that you were a micromanager? Because listen, I mean, you're in good company in dentistry with micromanagers. So I would you have realized it at that point or not quite yet?
No, I think I did not realize really that I was that much of a micromanager.
It might be a little problem on the weekends.
Yeah, it could be a little
on holidays.
It's a big problem. So yes, when I went to Productive Dentist Academy, I was like, for me, it was like, hey, I don't know everything, and I need to seek out some answers from guys and gals that have been doing it a little bit further, like much
messed up before.
Yeah, and then learn from them. And so, my first round at PDA, I was just like, wow, we're working way too hard.
Yes.
There's definitely a better way in order to schedule and to give patients a great experience and do comprehensive care and focus on the team.
Did Dr. Bruce resonate with you when he talked about how he had messed up so many times over the years with his, staff and everything like that? Do you remember that being like, yeah?
Yeah. Oh, yes. I would say he was definitely on the higher end of it.
Of course.
But yes, I definitely resonated with it. And it resonated more after PDA too, as I caught myself doing it more. And I was like, oh, I'm not being like, yes, I could say that's like being a leader and, having high standards, but are you really leading if you're walking in front and no one's following you? Or are you just taking a walk?
Yep. So what was the game changer? Like what changed about your vision casting?
Yeah. So for me, it was just PDA supporting me and connecting me with great doctors who are leading their teams and leading themselves, including Jeff Buski. He was a big part of that when I went to the leadership, the dental syndicate leadership training. That was part of it because I got to develop a lot of emotional intelligence and really figure out a lot of barriers in me mentally that I didn't even realize was there that was holding me back.
Yeah.
And so as I went through that process and went through this kind of self-discovery and self-analyzing, self-examining about who I am and my leadership, I found out through doing the work and just continue to learn about myself that I was like, wow, I don't think my team is on the same page as me. I don't think they really hear and understand me because I dictated what everything was from the very beginning. And for me, I was like, people are not going to hold on to what they don't discover, understand, and create in themselves. Mm-hmm. But in order to do that, I have to communicate and trust them. I have to trust the team that they want the same thing and put people in the right seats for the right people in the right seats.
This is a weird question, but do you see yourself more humble than a couple of years ago because of how you've positioned yourself from that self-exploration?
Yes, I am not saying nothing without my team, but it's so pointless without my team. I work so much harder. I burn out so much faster. I just can't handle very much. But when I get to go to work, have fun doing it, have fun with my patients and have fun with my team and laugh and have margaritas afterwards.
Yeah.
And just kind of shoot the can a little bit and have our jokes and funs and knowing things are being taken care of before it doesn't even touch me, and it's already being taken care of in my best interest because everyone is on the same page and I don't have to micromanage.
So what's leadership to you?
My leadership for me is always still casting the vision. Like without a vision, you are not a leader without a vision. You're a dreamer. So getting clear on your vision about where you want to go, that's part of leadership. And the rest of it is just growing the people and serving the people that is going in the same direction with you in your vision.
I saw you before we hit record, just for the guests listening today. You held up a book. Have you read that book yet? The Traction book, or is that one you're getting to?
I love Traction. EOS. Okay.
Yeah. Tell me a couple of insights that you've got from it. I mean, because this is for a listener that was like, I don't know if I'm ready for coaching. A good, thing to do would be to hop on Amazon or your local bookshop, and order Traction by Gino Wickman. Right. So tell me one or two thoughts that you got from that.
Yeah. So for me, I realized how important my leadership team was. Like, it is so important to have the right people in the right seats, the right people in the right seats, and trust them to do their job and trusting their judgment to perform at their level. My team transformed when they realized they were accountable for the vision, yes, but they had the autonomy to make the decisions that's best for that vision. And it's no longer a B, C, D, E, F robotic mechanical thing, and it's all formula basis. Now they get to show up as they are, and then they get to make decisions that serve the whole office. But I love Traction because it really clarifies, hey, how many meetings should we have? What should the meetings include? Like, I don't waste time going through a meeting and then falling through a tangent. It just gives me really great instructions and clarity. But the biggest thing for me is putting the right people in the right seats and having a plan of action for the year and breaking that down. So I recommend it to all my doc friends and anyone who owns a business. Like, absolutely wonderful book. I made my own revisions for my practice to serve my practice, but the underlying theme, very applicable.
So I'm thinking about, right people, right seats, delegation, leadership, and handing off the micromanagement and stuff like that. Those seem to be the keywords that I've got. Is there anything else that over the last couple of years that we haven't quite covered so far as the history of it? Like some good, valuable lessons that you've learned? Because it's good to talk about. Recently in a podcast about a month ago, I was sharing, that as much as I've heard other people saying, wow, this was, 2021 was a great year. And I'm like, well, honestly, it wasn't a great year for me. It just was okay. But I've learned a lot from it, and I'm growing from it. And furthermore, thank you very much for coming on, because like when I was giving the monologue about it, the idea was that we can let other people learn from it by sharing our story, by being transparent. Not everyone can share their story. I guess this would be a good plug that if you are listening and you resonate with my podcast monologue from a month ago and Danny's story, and you would like to share it, by all means, feel free to reach out to us to come on the podcast. But so in conclusion, all I was thinking was, is there any other kind of habit or whatever that you wish you had known earlier?
Yes. One of the big ones. So currently right now, I'm in a big AR obstacle challenge. And I kind of alluded to earlier, but the origins of that was, hey, you know what? I can just, bring anybody on and just train them how to do the front, and they'll be great at it because I did it for my assistants and I did it for my hygienist, and it worked too.
Sure.
And you know what? Maybe I can even probably, pay them less to do it. And you know what? And they'll still do a great job because I'll just show them how to do it. And it's just as simple as that. And no, it's not.
No, it's not.
No, it's worth it to invest again in the right people for the right seats.
Yeah.
Because Like right now, I was sitting and I was like over like 100 and something and overdue like AR. And I was like, "Man, this is terrible. Like that puts a damper on everything. Are we going to be okay? Yes, we will be fine. I am working it out. It'll be fine. But was it worth all the headache because I was um A, too prideful, A, B, possibly too cheap, C, can't see the value in other people and what they can contribute and seeing myself as guy who can do it all. Like I look back and I'm like, if I just trusted the team I had, put a couple of systems in place and truly trusted them and verified, we wouldn't have that problem. But it's okay because you are not your results. You are what you're committed to. Or I am who I'm committed to. And it's just a learning lesson. It's just an obstacle that I get to learn from. It's an opportunity.
Yeah. So are you working with Bren right now as your coach? Is that right?
Yes.
Now, did she help you find your new office manager? And tell me, because it sounds like your office manager knows the PDA
Yes.
or organizational skills and stuff like that. So tell me a little bit about that and how Bren has been helping too.
Yes. So Brendan's been great at getting into the specifics of the holes in our practice and where we can definitely have opportunities to improve in, including the AR, and giving us the standards of what it looks like for what should it be at 30, what should be at 30 and 60, like what is the norm here and where are we hitting for goals. So Brent's been great at saying, like, hey, Brent, this is a mess right now. What is a realistic goal for us to be here at this month, at this quarter, on this day? Like, what is possible? Because, we're not trained in this in dental school. And a lot of this, I don't care how much you've read and learned, you still got to pick up a lot of this as you go, just like everything else in life. And to have Brent there and say, hey, this is norm and this is definitely achievable, in creating these concrete targets for us to work on, and then we can just full force work on it, like focus on it and delegate and not dump, and just delegate and get those goals tackled and achieved.
Delegate and not dump. I like that. Sorry, I'm writing that down.
Yeah, like, hey, I just finished this. I'm delegating. No, you just didn't. You just threw it on them and expected them to run with it. And then you get disappointed when you don't get the results you want.
Right. Which reminds me of E-Myth kind of, style. It's just like, oh, good. Finally, someone else that can do this. Here you go. Yeah. So listeners, I just want to make sure that, you've heard some of the keywords. If you identify with micromanagement, if you identify with, finding the right people for the right seats, casting the vision, increasing your leadership organically, using delegation, learning from your mistakes. Danny, you've had a lot to share here that, helps people maybe first identify that. Where would you recommend they go next? Like if they go, doggone it, I am a micromanager, I need to change that. I mean, listen, it's not just a plug for like, what you should do is, call Productive Dentist Academy, though you and I both know that would be a great resource. But in general, what would be your recommendation?
Yeah, my gosh. Well, you know what? The way I feel about it is you can read all the books you want all day long and it could just go in your head and great. But if you don't take action on it, like immediate action on it, and not be scared of failing forward.
Yep.
Just learning, applying, messing it up and going back again. But that's a struggle and that's scary. So I say reach out to coaches, reach out to PDA, reach out to Jeff Buski, reach out to all, different coaches that fit you and where you're at to get the support you need and the feedback you need. Because without it, you can, like me, say, I'm just doing a little bit of micromanaging. No, asshole, you're doing lots of micromanaging. Like you're doing.
When do you not?
Yeah. When do you not do it actually? And you just don't. You're just. I consider it like you're just not aware of what you're doing because you're used to doing it and you've been on autopilot. I've been on autopilot for so long. I don't know.
And have you allowed anyone to, question you or like, kind of push back by, if they've come in, observed, done observation with your office and then have the freedom to say, well, what you're doing is, the blank and blank. That's a great bit of wisdom there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have to tell you, I'm proud of where you've come from, but at the same time, like, so the last couple of years, from when I first met you and you were getting stuff started, I'm proud of where you've come from. But I also, I think I saw it that you were ready to change. So you had a spirit that was ready to change. It's just, I don't think you knew what all change was going to be coming in the last couple of years, but it was cool to see that you were so on fire to learn and to reinvent yourself and to, keep improving yourself. And I think it sure seems like it's paying off. And so I'm proud of you. I just thought I'd tell you that. That almost goes back to Jeff and Sebastian, the brotherhood, just saying, hey, I'm proud of you and I want you to know that. So good work, man. Yeah, that's right. Good on you. And appreciate you coming on today. Thank you for joining us. Listeners, if you have any comments that you would like to talk about, maybe I can have you write those questions below on the Facebook page for Productive Dentist Academy, and we can get those questions to Danny and he can respond to those. So feel free to organically get involved and figure out where you are on your journey. So thanks for joining us today on Everyday Practices. Danny, thank you so much, buddy.
Thanks, Chad. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Everyday Practices Podcast. Chad and I are here every week thanks to our community of listeners just like you, and we'd love your help. It would mean the world if you can help spread the word by sharing this episode with a fellow dentist and leave us a review on iTunes or Spotify. Do you have an extraordinary story you'd like to share or feedback on how we can make this podcast even more awesome? Drop us an email at podcast@productivedentist.com. And don't forget to check out our other podcasts from Productive Dentist Academy at productivedentist.com/podcasts. See you next week.